had the privilege of traveling around a good deal in my working life, and I went to a conference in Atlanta. It was at the Waverly Renaissance in a really nice hotel, and they don't serve you jelly there for the continental breakfast in the little plastic containers like the Waffle House. You get them in these nice little jars. I was smitten with these little jars that were all over the place, and so I kind of wandered around and quietly collected up a bunch of them, put them in my pockets. In my jacket, I think I look like a squirrel. You know how they pack their cheeks up with nuts? That's how my jacket looked, with all the pockets all bulged out. But I got a bunch of these little jars, and I use them for things like I put some aspirin in here and some antacids, and I travel with this, just as an emergency first aid kit. And I thought that I would cut a little box today to go around this jar. It has a nice seal to it. The lid fits good on it, so I thought I'd give that a go. So I'm planning to just make a base just out of this maple here. This is one of those building blocks that I got, and so I'll make the base out of this, and then I have a little piece of walnut that I'll cut the top on. Now, I also did the resin dome trinket boxes a while back, and I had some smaller domes that I had on hand here that I had made a few years ago. So here's a bunch of them that I made. I found them in a box. I forgot all about them. This one's got a glass eye in it. There's a gold coin. Here's some molars of some kind, some sort of dental implants. Piece of jewelry, circuit board, a little gumball prize, all kinds of stuff. So I thought, in the spirit of the resin dome trinket boxes that I had made before, I could make these on a smaller scale for these little bottles. So I'm going to pick one of the little resin domes to go as an inset into the top of this bottle. Okay, I'm going to drill about a 1/4 inch deep hole in this little piece of walnut using a 1-inch force. And that'll give me a nice tight fit on my Nova chuck on the small jaws. Just using a 1-inch Forstner to get the hole started and stop, and now I have a nice hole started, and I'll finish it with this little screwdriver gouge. So I just want it to be kind of what I call a close sliding fit. So we'll go ahead and pop this thing off the jaws here. There we go. Ease it off, and I can flip it around now. I've selected this little dome here. It's got a skull head in it. Looks like it was a keychain, and that casts so nicely. So I'll go ahead and open up the hole for that and decrease the thickness of this. Uh-oh. Boy, I sure hope I can get it out of there. That wasn't too smart. Well, there's a problem. Well, that's a relief. I was able to get it out of there, but boy, it's got almost like a vacuum fit. All right, I've got it sanded down as much as I care to, and I'm just going to put a little bit of linseed, and I'm going to just do the outside of it. And I'm really afraid of getting it into the inset because I'm kind of concerned that my glue isn't really going to hold well. So I'm just going to be very carefully just do the outside of this. And boy, doesn't that walnut look pretty with that oil on there. Well, there's my top, and left it dry on the inside so that I can epoxy it to the top of this thing. So that's got a nice kind of vacuum fit there. And then my little piece there will go in the center. So now we're ready to work on the base. We are at the diameter that I want for the outside of this. Now, to figure out how deep I want this thing to be, I'm going to just kind of put this on the Forstner, and I'll just make a very scientific Sharpie mark there, and when I've bored in that far, I'll call it done. Okay, depth looks good. Now this hole is good 1/8 of an inch to 3/16 too small. So I'm just going to widen it out using my little homemade box scraper. The line to it, and so we're just parting it off. Alright, I think I'm going to flip this and put it in small jaws and finish the bottom. Just cleaning up the bottom here. Thought I would add just a little bit of decoration right up here near the top. I'm just going to cut a couple of V-grooves. Just to make these grooves pop, I'm just putting some red acrylic paint down in them. And I'm hoping that these will pop nicely and complement the red resin dome piece that I'll be putting up on top. So just paint a little bit of acrylic in there. Just applying some good old linseed oil, my current favorite finish. Fit up is good between the jar and the wooden pieces. So now I'm ready to do a glue up. And so for the top of this, I've got my little piece here, and when you mold cast 2-part resin, you'll end up with a meniscus in the mold, and you can see it forms a little bit of a sharp edge. So you don't end up with a flat bottom on these. So my little skull here, I've already done a little bit of sanding, but I want to make sure that this is reasonably flat so that when I glue it to the wood, I've got nice resin to wood contact through my CA glue. And I think I've roughened up the bottom suitably. So we'll move that to the side here, and then for the jar, there's a little bit of a raised area here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roughen that up as well. And so I'll make sure that I have a good rough surface for the wood to bond to. Otherwise, I'll be just bonding to the paint that's on the lid there. So just expose that metal rim here, and I'm ready to glue. I'll just use my good old dollar store glue here. This stuff really works well, and this is a gel type, so you can put it in there and it'll kind of flow in between the surfaces, and I don't want it too far towards the edge, otherwise it'll extrude out. So just make sure there's nothing on the bottom, and just put that in there, and that should be dry in about 15 minutes. I don't think I need any weight on that, so I'm just going to set it to the side. It's sitting nicely. Now for the jar, I'm just going to take a nice little run a bead around the inside. It's already quite a tight fit with the jar. You almost don't need the glue, but I don't want it to pop out of there, so we'll go ahead and just use the jar and just kind of turn it as I put it in and seat it in there very nicely. Okay, and that should be good. Beautiful. I think that's all the way down in there. That is never coming out of there. Well, the glue is set. I put the lid in and use my gel epoxy. Actually, it's not epoxy, it's CA super glue, which is great for these kinds of things. And so the little jar is done. Very happy with how it came out. I think it's kind of a neat little piece there. And we'll go ahead and take that home.